Today on the Nano YouTube channel, me and my brother try to tackle these valve covers and gaskets with a little help from my daughter. Go ahead.
I'm 6.
All right, what you want to do first, you want to take the engine cover off. It's going to be two 10mm bolts on the top. There's this little bolt right here that holds it underneath. So just pull very snugly and it'll pop right off. And then we're going to take this part of the air intake off and then the whole intake manifold off as well. So then we can get down to the valve covers. All right guys, now I know what you're thinking. Hey, the intake manifold has already been taken off. Well, there's a little bit of a process. Even though this is the second time we've taken it off in the past couple years, and this time went a lot quicker than before. But this is basically where it's set. Again, if you don't have a Haynes repair manual, make sure you pick one up because it definitely comes in handy whenever you're doing this. And it gives the sequence that you need to take the bolts off, and then also how you're supposed to put everything back on as far as the torque specs and stuff like that. So you have 7 bolts that attach this, and then numerous other connections like these that go around the back, and then other hoses and stuff like that. So as you can see, everything is pretty dirty in the engine bay right now. We're gonna be taking off the driver and passenger valve covers today. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go around and clean these as much as possible, so there's less debris that could potentially get into the valve once we take these off. All right, so we cleaned up the engine a little bit. We've disconnected these connectors from the coil packs, and now Preston is starting to take out his bank, and then I'm about to take out mine. All right, so all coil packs are out. Connectors have been disconnected, and then I went around. If you look here real quick, that gives you the sequence for the bolts that you need to take them out for the valve covers. So I have gone and taken all 10 bolts out. I will tell you there's 2 all the way here in the back on the driver's side that are pretty difficult to get to. And then also you have to torque these down to a certain spec once you put the new valve covers back on. So just consider that, that there's not a lot of room to work with back here for torque specs. So make sure that whatever, and it's in inch pounds for the specifications. So just whatever tool you're using, just make sure that you have that it's small enough to be able to get back there, do the job. Still got to get the passenger side done. We're gonna take a quick break and then we'll get back on it.
Time to tap it.
Oh, I thought I saw it move a little bit. Yeah.
You can reach the front and I can grab the back.
Me? Or I talk about that.
I think this is stuck on this. Yeah, I think he's getting caught up here. Yep.
Just keep in the car.
Oh, this gasket. Okay. Success!
Woo!
Woohoo! That wasn't that bad at all.
Uncle Pete says Jeep.
And around the edges, it actually looks pretty good. All right, so this is what it looks like with the valve cover off. And if you look back here in the back, you can actually see probably the worst part, I guess, where maybe it had failed. There's a lot of oil buildup and stuff back there. But if you look around the remainder of it, it actually looks pretty good. So we're gonna clean these up and then get the other one off and then clean that up, put on the new seals for the valve covers, and then put them back in. All right, so we are at the point where we have cleaned both of the valve surfaces, the air intake surface, and then also paying close attention down here on these corners on both sides. I know you can't see down there very well, but that's where the RTV is going to go. And so you want to make sure that you just have the cleanest surface possible. So once you put that down, it will adhere and seal once you have the valve covers in place. So at this point in time, we're going to go, since we already have access to all 6 of the spark plugs, we're going to go ahead and take out the old spark plugs, put new spark plugs back in, then get the valves ready and put them on. All right, guys, it is end of day 1 working on here, replacing the valve covers and gaskets. So what we did do today, and you probably can't see it very well, but we got both the valve covers done. We got them torqued down. We put in new spark plugs, new ignition coils, and then we're basically gonna call it a night because it's getting dark and my brother has to head out for the evening. So tomorrow I'm gonna go ahead and hit it again to make sure everything's where it should be. Get the intake manifold put in. I also have to do some gaskets on that, so I'll show you that tomorrow. And then hopefully either tomorrow or Wednesday, we'll actually start this thing up, and hopefully with no issues. See you tomorrow. All right, today is the beginning of day 2, and yesterday I think that we had the valve covers on. We got the coil packs in, new spark plugs. But I actually took the coil packs off today and torqued down the spark plugs to the correct specifications instead of just being hand tight. And then also I put some dielectric grease in the ignition coils, which it had called for, and I didn't see that till after the fact. So I got that, put those back down, tore those down to spec. So all that is good right here. Since we took this off, all these gaskets were mashed down, so I went and got brand new gaskets, have those installed. One also goes right here, and so that's basically where we're at right now. And we're about to go ahead and remove all this tape, make sure that's nice and clean, put that back on, and really start buttoning everything up. And hopefully from here, it won't take too much longer, and then maybe even get to start this thing today. All right, guys, as you saw in that last time lapse, we have everything finished and pretty much buttoned up. Dare I say we are ready to start this. I'm a little nervous about it because I've obviously never done anything like this before, and this is my first time. But we've gone as slow as possible to make sure we have all the connections. And yeah, I think we're pretty good. So I'm gonna go and turn the key, and hopefully this thing starts right up. Oh, and I did notice a few things before I start the vehicle. I did notice some of these lines probably are going to be needing replaced. So that's another thing too. Like this vehicle is 13 years old, and pretty much all these vacuum lines and stuff are original to the vehicle. So I did replace a couple of vacuum lines because they were so brittle when we were actually attaching them back. They just cracked, and there is some up here that's probably going to need to be replaced. So just think about that if you ever try to tackle a job like this. Just know once you're taking all this stuff off, you're going to go through that whole process. Just make sure that you go ahead and replace some of those vacuum lines so you don't have to go back to that at some point in time. All right, so let's start it up and see how it does. to be, once it gets up to operating temperature, that we don't have any leaks or anything like that around the valve covers. And probably going to let it get a little warm and then go ahead and drain the oil. It needed an oil change anyways, but since we were cleaning around the valve covers, I just want to make sure if there's any sediment that got in there, we're just going to go ahead and drain all that old oil and put brand new fresh oil in. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to thank my buddy Crix. You probably would have remembered him all the way from the Oregon video way back when I first started my YouTube channel. And if you haven't seen that, go check it out. We did Oregon in like 3 or 4 days. I'd like to thank my brother for coming out and help. I couldn't have done it without him. And then also, thanks to my wife to give me this time so I can go work on my vehicle. Again, this is something that anybody can do. You don't have to go and spend, I think Nissan dealership was going to charge me $1,500 to do this. I did all this for 350 bucks. So all it takes is a little time, a little patience, and you can do it. Oh, and also, Rye the Car Guy did an awesome video on replacing valve covers on Nissan Xterra. So his is a lot more in depth than obviously this is. So I'm going to leave his link down in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share. If you haven't already done so, subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.